Today, my guest is DEBORA WAYNE. She is the founder and CEO of the International Chronic Pain Institute. She is a world-renowned energy healer whose leading-edge method, known as high-speed healing, has helped tens of thousands around the world to rapidly release chronic pain, depression, anxiety, trauma, battles with weight, binge eating, like I said before, chronic fatigue, insomnia, and many other conditions without taking pills, doing physical therapy and endless therapies, or giving up your favorite foods. She's a highly sought after speaker and number one best-selling author of Why Do I Still Hurt? Deborah has earned degrees and certifications in psychology, hypnotherapy, and chemical dependency counseling, has 35 plus years practicing and teaching meditation, is a national recognized glass artist, a former professional modern dancer, certified yoga instructor, and leads the only practitioner training worldwide in her proprietary method known as high speed healing. Welcome to the Heal Your Natural Wellness Podcast, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Astrid. Great to be here. Hello, everyone.
All right, it's great to have you. And so, without further ado, so that you could see her. So tell me a little bit about your journey on healing chronic pain and everything that you started with.
So, very long story short, because my story begins over 30 years ago, but basically, I crashed and burned. My health went to the basement, and I had pain from head to toe that nobody could figure out. I was suppressed. I was super anxious. I actually got to a place where I was having suicidal thoughts, and I didn't know what to do. And I had tried everything that I knew of to try, and I was out of ideas. And I screamed out to a God that I didn't believe in at the time. And lo and behold, I had a really amazing spiritual experience. And what it did was it just rocked my world, and it revealed to me that everything is energy, and that this energy was flowing through me, flowing through my hands, and was going to be used for healing myself and then other people. Now, this was not, this didn't at first it didn't even make any sense to me. I grew up in a medical family. I've always been very artistic and very intuitive, but wow, this rocked my world. And so I didn't just come right out and tell the whole world about it. I spent quite a few years going back to things like meditation, spending time in nature, going back to school, getting a bunch of degrees and certifications, and doing workshops and a lot of books. And what I discovered is that this is very real, and we've really entered the age of energy and energy healing, and even the latest science, which is known as biofield healing, and a whole world literally opened up to me. And I slowly over time became very, got very I improved everything that was going on with me internally and externally. And then I started to work with other people. And I've been able over many years now to work virtually with tens of thousands of people in 150 countries to date, and
Wow.
help them to literally let go of severe cases of chronic pain, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, people suffering from binge eating and other eating disorders, even addictions, cancers, all kinds of diseases where they've been told there's nothing we can do for you.
Mm.
And I've seen them come alive again, get their energy back, and get their lives back. And that's what brings me here today, because I can't shout it loud enough from enough rooftops.
Love it. And that's why I decided to bring you to the podcast because we that is the main idea for me. It's always been since my website to raise awareness in terms of you as of recently I've been using this phrase your diagnosis is not you are not your diagnosis,
Beautiful. I
right? You're
totally get this. This
right.
is so true. And people get very identified with the label, the MRI, the X-rays, the everything they've been told, and they take it as gospel truth. And I'm telling you, as you know, it ruins their lives, ruins. And they end up
Yes.
on a trail with drugs and all kinds of things that sometimes create side effects that are worse than what they had to begin with. And those are my people. I help people who want to get off, um, all of these really harmful ways of cut it out, drug it out, and they want to get their energy back and start to feel healthy and happy again, get their joy back. Maybe they never even had joy to begin with.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just sending this to my our listeners, and hopefully maybe yours too. I don't know if they'll be able to get it, but for them to send their questions and stuff. Pain. So I had exactly what you're saying. I had debilitating disc herniation pain. It
Yeah.
is debilitating. Like anyone, I remember describing it as a if I was walking around with a knife
Yeah.
on my back,
Yeah.
and it changes everything. It
Everything.
changes your mood, it
Oh,
changes your relationships, it
yeah.
changes your state of mind, it changes
Totally.
your right. It and
Totally.
so
You don't want to do anything. You don't want to make any plans. You're afraid it's going to hurt. What if I can't, I'm in too much pain?
yes,
What if, right? And you end up
yes.
shrinking your world down to your living room.
That's it. Your world shrinks. You couldn't have said it better. So that's why I'm so happy to bring you here, because there are many people out there dealing with,
Yes.
severe pain. And, I want you to tell them that there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I want to then potentially, obviously, to connect with you and your team. So, you know
Mhm.
what, if you've been dealing with this chronic pain, and look, it is possible to, because right before I told, Deborah, I was like, you know what? So going over our little script, and I'm like, you can manage pain, and she said, no, 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 we don't manage pain. We get rid of it. So I'm like, yes, that's what we want to hear. So without further ado, let's just go into one of our first questions. So why don't you tell us about hidden emotions? Actually, you know what? Let's start with this one. Let's talk about why people don't heal no matter
Yes.
what they try, and
Yes.
tell us more about your unique approach using your high speed healing method, and some examples of what's possible, some examples of the kinds of conditions you've helped people overcome, and the results you've seen over the years. That was a mouthful, but you could go step by step.
I love it. Awesome question. So first of all, my method is quite unique because typically what people are asked to do if they have any kind of pain, even other types of chronic illness, is they first look at the nutrition and they start to cut out and eliminate a lot of foods. And so people are ending up eating air and broccoli and they still hurt and they can't figure out why. And then the next thing is they're given, drugs or supplements, sometimes handfuls of supplements. And oftentimes the people I work with say, I'm not really sure anything's working, but I'm afraid to stop taking these things. And they're taking patches and anti-inflammatory shots and all kinds of stuff, but the pain remains. So there are hidden reasons that lie at the root of pain. And I want to make it very clear to everyone listening, if you remember one thing and one thing only, the symptoms are never the root cause of the problem. The symptoms
Mhm.
are never the root cause of the problem. So your question is, well, why do people still hurt who've tried everything? And it's true, they're willing to do anything, but no one's going deep enough to get to the root. It's the common way of helping is to try to drug out or cut out or focus on the symptom.
Yep.
And when you focus on the physical body alone, or even your physical life, your weight, your I always joke, but it's true, your finances and your romances, those are symptoms, and they may be causing you a lot of pain as well, but
Yep.
you can't fix it by just looking at the symptoms. We have to go deeper to the roots, which are underground and often hidden from view. And those roots tend to consist of three things. And there's only three places to look. The first is your mind. Your habits of thought are a superpower, and they are creative in nature. And the thoughts start first before anything ever shows up in the body. It started with habits of thinking.
Wow.
And this is where we have it backwards. The body is the last place anything shows up, not the first, the last place. The first place it shows up is in the thinking mind. The next place is the emotions, which you started to ask me about. This is a huge key to the pain, the patterns, the symptoms, the problems,
Wow.
because thoughts generate an emotional reaction, and the emotions generate more thoughts, and the thoughts generate more emotions, and the emotions more thoughts. And before you know it, you're round and round a merry-go-round that you can't get off of. And you're trying to think harder, think more. You're Dr. Google researching everything with more thoughts, more confusion, more overwhelm. And before you know it, the pain is worse, not better. So we have to unlearn the way we've been taught to try to figure out with our mind the pain, because we're not thinking correctly. Most people are focused on what they don't want. And where you focus, you're putting your energy into it. And it's like having a fireplace with a roaring fire that you're trying to put out, but you keep adding logs to it.
Mm.
That's what you do when you have a problem, a symptom, and you keep thinking about it more, and then worrying about it more, afraid of it, you know, guilty over it, trying to figure out where it came from, thinking it's genetics, all these thoughts
Ay,
and
ay,
all
ay.
these negative emotions weigh you down, and they add logs to the fire. So we have to find and release, not think harder, we have to release the damaging thoughts. We have to find and release, not just feel the emotions. And I'm not saying you suppress them or deny them, but you have to release them. Most people don't know how to release them. They only know how terrible they feel.
You're
And
a
they,
yeah.
right?
I'm sort of cut you off. Like you're 100%. Like this is so important, guys. We don't know how to release those emotions, and like Deborah said, it's not that you don't feel or write the emotions, because you have to. That's another process in itself. That when you're feeling certain emotions, you want to feel them and then release them. So Deborah hopefully is going to share that with you. So I just wanted to go on, and then I was going to ask something else.
Well, the third area that's the fastest, the easiest, and the safest way to release damaging thoughts and damaging emotions is to work in the energy field. And this is unfamiliar to a lot of people, but it's the latest leading edge area of science. And it's also ancient spiritual wisdom. And the two worlds are actually saying the same thing in a different language. So it's my specialty to work in the energy field. I do the work for people. It is so relaxing. It's easy. It's effortless. They don't have to learn anything. They don't even have to understand with their mind how it works for it to work. And so when you work in the energy field, it can bring up and move out the damaging thoughts and the emotions that many people aren't even aware are causing the problem. Because
Wow.
everything that's ever happened has been recorded in your energy field. These are vibrations that are disturbances that I can sense and find and feel in a matter of seconds. And it's literally the most leading edge area of health and self-care. And everybody should be doing this first, not last, because it's the fastest path to healing.
Mm.
I've been able to help people all over the world, literally people who have had, for example, 30 years of fibromyalgia pain,
Mm.
head to toe, not a day without pain, Astrid, not
That
one day.
that
In
is so
less than 1 hour
hurtful.
in the very first session, many of these people are completely pain-free. And they're so shocked that it was even possible. They're like, what just happened? I can't even believe this is possible. I've worked with people with terrible digestive disorders. They can't eat anything. They throw up. They have diarrhea. They can't eat.
That's tough.
I've seen all of this linked to the emotions. The emotions come up, they release. If they truly do have allergies or bacteria, they start to detoxify, and I never touch them. And it's the easiest way, and it's safe and fast. Here's another area that I love working with people with severe trauma. For example, if they had accidents or injuries, or they had a surgery that went bad, like something happened after the surgery that was worse than when they went in. People who have had abuse of all types, sexual abuse, physical abuse, violence, neglect. Oh my God. the trauma that so many people have had and are going through now, this is the fastest way and the safest way to release all kinds of trauma without re-triggering the trauma. And
That's
that's the
important.
beauty of it.
Hmm.
See, because people don't have to bring up all those feelings and go back and rehearse and talk about it for 10 years. It comes up, it moves, and it's just the easiest way. And it's very quick for most people. So I love seeing people become free, because trauma from the past will affect everything in the present moment. And many times people aren't aware of how traumatized they were or they are, but it's affecting them, and they can't find it anywhere on a medical test. The other things that are very common are people who they haven't slept in years, not one decent night's sleep. They have a pattern running from being in fight, flight, or freeze mode. Their adrenals get exhausted. Their hormones are all out of whack. They're in a stress, sympathetic nervous system state from something that happened, and they often don't even know why. That will cause insomnia, hormone disruption, all kinds of things that people can't find or figure out. And I can help them working in their energy field to kick in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where the body's own self-healing mechanism gets stimulated, where people start to have that relaxation response. They feel safe again, and we interrupt the patterns that have kept them on red alert, so tense. No wonder they have muscle pain. They haven't relaxed their body in years because
Wow.
they're afraid and they don't feel safe. And what's so horrible is that this could come from something that happened 30 years ago, but it's still affecting the physical body, the mental and the emotional state when they're 70, 80 years old, 50, 60 years old. It just gets into a lockdown, basically. So I can help people rapidly change these things.
That's phenomenal. I was just gonna say, as I'm listening to Deborah talk about this, guys, and this is something that I've discovered in the past few years, is that either, this is a little bit different generational trauma, which is transmitted from, family generations. But
Yeah.
what you were just saying, and I want you to pay attention to this. You may have experienced a traumatic situation as a child, teenager, what Deborah just said. And, unfortunately, in orthodox medicine, or in conventional medicine, they don't address these things. So that this goes back to, why am I feeling still this way? Why do I have these symptoms? Why do I not get better? Because it's not the physical aspect, it's not the cut, it's not the, right, Deborah?
Yeah.
You're saying,
It's much
because
deeper. It has to do with the patterns of thought and the emotions that get suppressed, repressed, and denied. And I love what you're saying, because we actually live in a world that says, don't bring those emotions here. We don't want them here. We don't want to deal with that. We don't know how to deal with that. And some people are even shamed for their emotions.
yes.
Carry a lot of embarrassment and shame or guilt or sadness, and they're told, grow up, get over it. And big boys don't cry. Men have it worse than women, but they're not allowed to feel. And I have a little chant that I tell everyone, that if you want to heal, you must learn to feel. That
I
doesn't mean
like
you have to be
that.
crying all day at work. It just means you have to learn to actually bring up the feelings, feel them appropriately, and learn a technique to release them. Otherwise, they're going to come out sideways as a symptom.
Wow, that is very, very interesting. You see, guys, it's very important to pay attention. I always mention in my podcast, and since the beginning, listen to your body. The body will tell you. Like, we could abuse our bodies as much as we want, but eventually, like I always say, that your body is gonna hand you the bill. You right? Eventually, it's like, here's the
Yeah.
bill. You did this to me. Like, at some point, it's all fun and games until something really bad happens, and eventually, it's like, the body will stop you. Like someone who's like on fight or flight, constantly working, and it's like, I need to work this many hours, and every week, and eventually your body will start breaking down. And so disease is usually a symptom,
Yeah.
right? of
Correct.
what's really the root cause. So we're all about root cause. That's why Debbie's here. I'm sorry, Deborah. And so we are going to address all of those. So moving on to the next question, which was pretty much tied up to what we were talking about. So your specialty has been helping people who suffer from severe chronic pain and other chronic conditions for many years now. So I think we may have addressed this already. So why is it that some people cannot get rid of their pain symptoms and chronic conditions no matter what they try? Did we address that already, or?
A little bit. I've actually found there are 13 top key reasons that people still have pain and symptoms.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
not going to go into all those today, but the first is
We
that
can, if you want.
well, I'll give you a couple top important ones, and we briefly touched on it, but you said, and it's true, we're too focused on the physical, and it's not physical. The symptoms are physical. I'm not saying it's in your head or you're making it up. Don't get me wrong. Yes, it's showing up in the physical, but that's not the root. That's the symptom. So until we go deeper and we explore the thoughts, the beliefs, and the emotions, you probably won't fix it no matter how much you want to. The second thing, and this is quite curious, because the first thing, and I'm sure you know, as I've experienced, when you're in extreme pain, what's the first thing that happens? You go to somebody and you say, how do I make this stop? And so we try to stop it, and that is the exact opposite
Mm,
of what we need to do if we really want to heal. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should learn to live with it and you should be in pain. But if you try to stop the pain symptom, then what you're going to do is end up either trying to drug it out, numb it out, cut it out, medicate it. And you're not addressing the root cause. And so this is why people sometimes get temporary relief, or they try 10,000 things and nothing works, because they are trying to stop it instead of learning from it. And again,
mm,
this is another Deborah-ism. Pain always has a message in it for you, always.
yes.
If you want to heal, you have to go deeper and learn the message in your pain, not try to just make it go away. Because as you said, if you keep ignoring, denying, suppressing, repressing, I mean, you can go on for a period of time, but eventually your body will shut down. You won't be able to tolerate it, and it will be overwhelming. And that's what happened to me, and why I went through health hell. I tried to ignore it and took drugs and drank myself to sleep every night for 14 years. And
Oh,
it was
wow.
not a long time until I crashed and burned.
What
And
I'm sort of what type of pain were you dealing with? Because
I had quite a few things. I had, first of all, I had ulcers. My hair was falling out. I had digestive trauma. I had joint pain
mm,
and swelling that nobody could figure out. My thyroid didn't work properly, but nothing that they gave me worked. I had PMS so bad. Every month I had to lie down flat for 3 days minimum without
oh my
moving and
gosh.
drugs, because it hurt so bad I couldn't move. I mean, I had depression, anxiety. It was just on and on. Every area of my life was affected by this.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Depression.
Thinking, well, this will fix it, but it didn't fix a thing. And eventually I got addicted to the drugs, and then I was really stuck. So
Mm,
I had to find a way to heal that did not involve living on pills, including supplements. I found a way, that's what I've synthesized down into my program and how I help people now. And it was going to kill me, truthfully. I was really headed for the grave.
oh yeah, definitely. Oh, I love it. I love it. I cannot wait for people to find you because I know what severe pain is. Like I said, I also experienced ulcers, and I believe because I was so stressed out when I
Yes.
lost my job,
Yes.
and I was staying up late looking for a job and things like that when I worked in the IT field as a web developer. And I developed severe acid reflux or GERD.
Yep.
And
These
let
are
me
all related to emotions.
yes, and you know what?
Always.
Um, again, I've told this I believe I've spoken about this before, but drinking water even hurts when you're in such
I
severe,
understand.
right? Remember?
Yes,
So
people say this to me all the time. I know, and that's when you know.
that's when listen, water is the purest form of
Life.
life, right? And if this is not helping me something, that's what also how my
Right.
website was born, between
Mhm.
my back pain and the acid reflux and stuff like that. I went to conventional, and they give you the proton pump inhibitors and all that stuff, and none of
Right.
that works. When and just so you guys know, since I'm talking about it right now before I forget, sometimes when you're taking those proton pump inhibitors, such as what is it, protonics, those things for acid reflux, which is a little bit, it's unrelated to this, but if so they work for a little bit, and then it comes back with a vengeance.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I felt like I was gonna die when I ended that round of the PPIs. I was in such a pain, and I was so miserable. And that's when I said, like Deborah, there has to be a better way. I remember vividly, it's 2 a.m. and I'm searching on the internet. There's got to be a natural way to reverse this, and I'm gonna do it.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
didn't find you, unfortunately, but I found this acid reflux report. But anyways, let's go back to one of the other questions. So, does getting positive results require faith or believing a certain way? Is this based on science, or is it just spiritual?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's actually both. And so if it's open to anyone. You don't have to believe any particular thing for this to work. So if you are an agnostic or an atheist, believe me, this is all based on principles from physics. So it doesn't require any faith at all, ever. And I don't, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. What I can provide is an experience that you cannot deny. And once you've
Mm,
had an inner experience where you can tell something's happened, there's no words to even describe that. It's a knowing. It's not an intellectual understanding. It's a knowing. And this is all based on an area of science that it's very unfamiliar to a lot of people. It's often referred to as biofield science. And this field I keep talking about is an actual field that was discovered by physicists, but it's a fairly recent discovery. And it was first photographed by the late Dr. Valerie Hunt, who's from UCLA. And she was able to photograph and showed how the field is informing the body. And if it's already shown up physically in the body, you can still see it in the body. And then when you work in the field, you see the changes occurring in the body as well. And there's a two-way communication happening between the field and the body. And it's just so fascinating because back to the emotions for a moment, emotions, she showed very clearly, emit a frequency. And frequencies are, if they are disturbance frequencies, they are literally communicating to the body, releasing toxic chemicals and acidity. And this is why, if you do that, have these emotions, and thoughts are the same. If thoughts and emotions are releasing these disturbance frequencies, they will keep talking to the body, giving instructions and releasing chemicals and stirring up the stress hormones. And that's where
mm,
it starts.
wow.
Now, it's also very ancient. When I became a yoga teacher back in 2001, that's when I started realizing, oh my goodness, this is validating everything that I've been shown intuitively. And it was before I discovered the science. I only discovered the science in recent years, but in 2001, as I began to study yoga and Ayurveda, and then I realized, well, other cultures all have, many cultures have this idea of the invisible realm, the subtle energy bodies, which the yogis talk about at length, and how there's a mental body, an emotional body, a spiritual body, even a bliss body. And it explained why even people that I were working on were saying to me, wow, I feel bliss. What is this? I've never felt this before, because I was able to help them access these more subtle energetic fields that they were not in touch with before, because they were completely focused on the physical body and the physical symptoms. So if you are very spiritual, and I don't mean religious, if you're very spiritual, you will probably love this. But if you're not, if you don't want anything to do with that and you're only scientific, you will probably love this, because physics totally explains it.
Scientific, yeah.
and you know, it's open to any religion. It has nothing to do and not in conflict with religious beliefs. So I even tell people, if you're skeptical, just come on and try it, because you're welcome here. You don't have to believe certain dogma for this to work for you. And often it's the skeptics that become my biggest fans.
Really? That's interesting. You
Yeah.
know, I feel that if you actually, that was going to be my next questions, and my next question regarding, you know, what if someone is skeptical? And I think one of the best ways to um not promote, but for promote, for lack of a better word, you, what
Yeah.
you do is when you see results, when
Yes.
you start feeling amazing, when,
Yeah.
like you said, within an hour, I'm actually pretty interested just by the little bit that I read before our podcast and what I'm listening. I want in because I know
I
it
mean, everyone
works.
should try it, because
I
you
want
have
to.
to experience this in order to really understand what I'm even saying. It's hard to wrap your mind around something that's so abstracted that you haven't heard about at your doctor's office either. Yeah.
And also that's why you're here. I usually like to bring some of my guests who use different modalities and different things that unfortunately we're actually fighting in the movement to hopefully incorporate it into health insurance and things like that, which is really tough right now. But I want you guys to remember this, and I'm going to give you all the links. You're going to have your dedicated page on my website with all the links to reach out to how to get in touch with Deborah, because um we know you've worked with thousands of people and you know how bad it is out there. And right
Yes.
now, especially after this pandemic,
Right.
there is more. And I'm on a healing journey myself. You know, I always talk about it on my podcast. I'm not going to talk about it today, but I have trouble with sleep. It gets better and it's gotten kind of worse the last couple of months, or
Yeah.
you know, on and off throughout the pandemic. And
Yeah.
so I'm constantly trying to get out there, you know, to regulate my circadian rhythms and things like that. But as I'm listening to Deborah, you know, there's a possibility that I need to tap even deeper into this area
Mhm.
with emotions. Perhaps, you know, some of what I'm dealing with could be related to potential maybe trauma that I'm not aware of, you know?
Exactly. Well, your body doesn't feel safe enough to drop into the deep sleep. And that is partly,
Mm.
it may not even be something you went through personally. We're going through a collective trauma since COVID. And I've had more people in who had pain, their pain flared up. If they didn't have pain, some people got pain. A lot of people who weren't typically depressed or anxious or overwhelmed or sad or feeling lonely, all of these emotions in particular have been flaring up for people.
Yes.
And you know, what's really incredible is that before COVID, the statistics were that 2 out of 3, which is almost everyone, 2 out of 3 people were paying money to get help with their stress level because it was over the top. That was before the pandemic. And so
Wow.
now, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are. They probably haven't really done studies that recent, but it's, you know, I've just never seen people so stressed out before, not sleeping, not digesting well, hormones out of whack, everything.
Yes, you're right. About the digesting. I've had people come up to me. I recently just shared, in fact, myself, I started taking digestive enzymes because I know that, you know, being in this field for a while and doing my own research, I knew that something was off. So I was like, you know,
Yeah.
my apple cider vinegar is not helping. I need something extra. So digestive enzymes, things like that. But this goes at a deeper level, guys. And you know, always, like I always say, dig deeper. If your doctor is not, if it doesn't sound like it's helping, go out there and start reading things, finding out what can potentially be happening. But this is something that I would really want you to look into, because it makes sense. And like Deborah said, it's you know, it was discovered by a physicist, correct?
Correct. And you know, I should mention, I went into a research lab a couple of times to try to get a deeper look at what was happening.
Oh wow.
And they showed that I took a woman, one example, just one. She had been given the diagnosis fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. She had arthritis pain. She also had a curvature in her spine, which caused a
Mm.
lot of upper back pain,
Oh yeah.
knee pain. She had a double cataract in one eye, an injury to her eardrum from an explosion years ago that had affected her hearing. She just had, insomnia. She had not slept in 12 years without a sleep aid. So, she had a lot going on.
Yeah.
And in one session where they measured her on all types of equipment before and after the session, she reported being 99.99% pain-free for the first time in 12 years in less than
Wow.
an hour. She stood up and we actually saw the spine was completely straight, which is another benefit, is that it can and does cause oftentimes structural change.
Mm.
She slept for the first time in years. Within 2 weeks, that double cataract was healed. And what they saw that's so interesting is that even though the measurements showed a 51% improvement from the first session, but she came back on the second day without me. No more work. I didn't work on her again, but she came back to get measured. Improvement without another session. So she went to 67% improvement on day
Wow.
2. And that's the opposite of what tends to happen with everything else, where it declines over time. The other interesting thing is that obviously the equipment can't measure everything, because she reported being almost 100% free. And the equipment showed 67%. But what's interesting to note is that the average, they said, in 25 years of research, the average improvement in one session was 10%. So this
Wow.
is almost 7 times greater than what they were used to seeing.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, it's pretty compelling. And if you, so let me ask, for example, if there's someone with dealing with cancer per
Yeah,
se,
yeah.
it's a much deeper uh, you know, symptom, like we call it, because the root cause is something else. How do you handle someone like that? Like they would definitely need more sessions, absolute, right? Or how does it go?
Well, everyone's case is different, and obviously I do not and I will not make any guarantees, because everyone is different and it requires them to sometimes do work. I have to teach them how to retrain their thinking and get those emotions up and out. That's why I created my pain-free living program. But when I work with people, either one-on-one or in my groups, and I've worked with quite a number of people with cancer of all types. And I'll give you a great example. A woman with stage 4 breast cancer, it was her second time with cancer.
Mm.
And they told her that she had tumors everywhere and that she was so far gone, they would not even offer her chemo or radiation. They said,
Yeah,
"You're going to die."
that's usually the case in stage 4. They send you home.
They sent her home. Well, she found me somehow, and I began working on her. And within 3 sessions, in only once a week, she's another one. We took her into a research lab, and I only worked on her one time a week, which normally I would probably work on a person twice a week with someone that severe. But that's not how the experiment was set up. So even after 3 sessions, only 3 sessions, she went back in for an MRI, and it showed an 82% reduction in all tumors. And I worked on her a bit longer, and within a month, she was declared cancer-free. And so I
What? Within a
say this is
month?
possible. You
Wow.
see, not about how long you've had something or how bad they've told you it is. It's everything is changeable, because everything, including tumors, are made of energy. Energy never dies, but we know from science it changes form constantly, and it can be instantly.
Mm.
And if you are given a safe space with the right tools, and the dis-ease starts to come up, it's made of energy and it moves. And when it moves, you will change. So I
Wow.
have seen the worst of the worst. And again, I will not, I do not, I cannot make a guarantee, but I have seen what people would call impossible miracles every day in my world.
Oh, that's beautiful. I
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Wow, that's pretty interesting.
Isn't it?
Month, you hear a lot of times, and when you say I can give guarantees, listen, what you just told me, it's pretty awesome, considering her situation. But even in conventional medicine, they give you
Right.
all the chemotherapy, all the radiation, and they send you home with no guarantee. Beginning at the beginning of everything, they never give you a guarantee anyway.
You
You
can't.
get all the poison. I'm sorry, you get all the medications, and at the end of the day, which we already know, usually with chemotherapy and radiation, it lead to, and when you do biopsies, it'll
Right.
lead actually to metastasis and all of that. And so, I would try it. I mean,
Yeah.
why not?
Well, a lot of people I work with actually go through chemo radiation and work with me at the same time. And what's interesting there is that they usually have completely different pain response, where they've been told they're going to be in a lot of pain. They may not have any pain, or they may have very minimal pain. Some have not lost their hair. Others have been able to exercise, walk 2 miles a day, which is
Oh,
unheard
wow.
of. And so they have a different, because the we're rebuilding the energy field that the chemo and the radiation tears down the energy field. So it helps people to stay stronger than they would if they were just,
Doing
doing.
the alone.
Yeah.
That's excellent to hear. I, for example, if I was when I was doing a little bit of functional
Yeah.
coaching, I
Yeah.
would be skeptical of somebody. I had my aunt, which was going through chemotherapy and all of that, and
Yeah.
like some one of the family members said, what can we go and do both? And I'm like, you can, but I personally feel that it's counterproductive. So I love the fact that you still take patients like that. Awesome. Thank you for answering that. Now we're going to move to the next question. Does high speed healing have any benefit for children?
Yes, in fact, children are actually easier than adults because children, the younger they are, they don't have as many ideas and beliefs that, they're not worried about, oh, someone's going to think I'm crazy if I do this, or what if I look funny, or what if it doesn't work? Children just aren't thinking all these things. They haven't learned to think these things yet. Adults have learned so much that actually works against them. So
Mm,
children have typically very rapid results. Their sessions don't need to be quite as long in many cases. They have rapid healing and sometimes don't need even as many sessions. Animals are similar. I've worked on children and animals for many years,
really?
and it's just so beautiful to watch. In fact, when I work with adults virtually on Zoom, if they have a dog or a cat, they often always they can hear it or feel it or sense it. So they show up and they want to be in on the session,
Oh,
and they
that's so
either
cute.
lie on the chest of the person or right by their side. But if there's a dog or cat around, they often show up within seconds.
Because they know they want it. Let me tell you, they want it just like as much as I
They
do.
do.
I think but also I'm interested in stuff like that, and I've been learning, always evolving because you have to. I listened to, I don't know if it's related at all, but I listened to Dr. Joe Dispenza
Yes. Well,
sometimes.
he very much is on a similar understanding and wavelength than I am. And he gets more into explaining the neuroscience than I do. But he understands that the body's designed to heal and that thoughts and emotions are creative in nature. And we've never been taught how to use our mind and our emotions properly. And
Right.
so if we don't, you won't change. If you don't change your mind and you don't release these emotions and acknowledge that they're there, you will keep dragging the past idea of yourself into the present moment again and again and again. And this is why you're stuck.
Wow, that's great. So, I was just looking at before actually last question. I
Yeah.
wanted to see, would it be possible that you could show us or do like a 1 minute 30 seconds, I don't know, of what you do, or that's not possible, like to
No,
show?
it would take a bit longer. We need about maybe 10 minutes to
Okay.
do a demo, but what I could do is invite all the listeners to a live call with me.
Yes,
And
I
I'd
was
love
gonna
to
say
do
that
that.
if you wanted to be on a live call, I was the other day I ended up in a meditating without knowing Dr. Gonzalez, Dr. G. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Christian Gonzalez was having a meditation, so I would absolutely love to do this, and I think my audience is going to be very excited. I got some questions already from them, and
Good.
so and there some of them are interested. I hope they get to follow you sooner rather than later. So awesome. Let's do that. If we're gonna do a live with Deborah. She's kindly going to do a demo for us. So stay tuned. When it's probably gonna be before I publish this, but nevertheless, I'm going to announce it on Instagram, my social media. So what if someone is not in pain or not experiencing symptoms of disease? Would
Yeah.
the method have any benefit at all?
It does. It's fascinating what happens when you don't have to be 100% pain free for this to happen. But once you clear out enough of the really acute, dramatic pain and symptoms, this is when it gets really good because the high speed healing will stimulate your creativity, your focus, your ability to focus and concentrate.
I
It
need that.
stimulates your productivity. People have come up with inventions, ideas for books and businesses, and some people start painting and artistic endeavors.
Oh,
It is
wow.
remarkable to see what happens. And it really opens up this intuitive center in the brain. Uh, and people's intuition gets very ignited, so they find it easier to meditate. They understand finally what intuition is and what all the big hoopla is about it, and they start understanding this inner guidance that people seem to want, but they don't know what that is. And this will turn it on and activate all of that inner GPS, I call it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Guys, this is super interesting. I'm so glad you're here. I am definitely looking forward to exploring more into it because I'm actually very interested. And so look, even if you don't have a chronic condition or any kind of pain, you could definitely benefit from this. So why not? If you could enhance areas in your life of, for example, I'm working on creating a course, an online course, and I've been breaking my head. Like, I mean, I have a background in web development. I started doing this, and I'm just trying to think of like, how can I, because as you get the questions, the DMs, and it gets overwhelming to answer to many people. So, definitely guys, look into this. This basically concludes our podcast. Before I do the outro, is there anything you would like to end the podcast with?
Yes, I would love to give everyone listening a copy of my book, which is called Why Do I Still Hurt? And it will go deeper into the conversation we've had today. And it's somewhat like a workbook. So it will get your healing journey started and start to bring up some of those unconscious ideas I've been talking about.
Oh,
You
I
might
love it.
find the emotions start to come up when you read this book. If you go to the link that we'll give you, you'll get a copy of the book and you'll get invited to a live call with me as well. So I would really love to help everyone and just I want to finish with this. No matter what you've been told, no matter how far down the scale you've gone, no matter how bad you think it is, the body is designed to heal. If it's given a safe space, the right guide, the right tools, you can heal. So no matter what, just don't give up hope. Your miracle could be right around the corner. So just take the next step, even if it's not with me. Find someone that you trust and take the next step and don't stop, because everything that has happened to you brought you here today. It's no accident you showed up on listening to this podcast. And just don't stop, because healing is possible and it may be faster and easier than you think.
Ah, that is such a beautiful message. Thank you so much. Um, Guys, if you want to connect with Deborah, that was such a nice message and also very generous of Deborah to provide the workbook, which I'm going to get, and also the other freebie. All the links are going to be on the on my website on her dedicated page. If you want to connect with Deborah, definitely visit her website and you tell her where you found her. Her website is internationalcpi.com. Also, if you want to connect with Deborah, she is on, is this Telegram correct? Is this no? No, I'm
Instagram.
sorry. What was the let's see. I have the Clubber that
You can find me on Clubhouse.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Clubhouse. Okay.
On Instagram and on Facebook.
So the Clubhouse, I apologize. It's not Telegram, it's Clubhouse. And the address is clubber.1/add Deborah Wayne. And again, you're gonna get the links. You could follow her on Instagram at Deborah Wayne. And also she has a YouTube channel. I will provide all the links. Deborah, it was an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you for what you're doing around the world. We need more like you, and looking forward to having you again.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone for listening, and have a beautiful rest of your day.
Awesome. You as well. Thank you.